Welcome back to VFX and Chill. Hashi, we didn't actually specify who was talking first this week. I talked first.
What's up, everybody?
This week, look, I am just going to get right to it. Is that okay, Hash? Do we have any big updates to talk about?
Yes, let's jump right into it.
I mean, there are a few updates to a few pieces of software that might be worth mentioning.
Michael, you are a disembodied voice. I did not introduce you, so you will sit quietly in the corner until we're ready to talk about those things. I had to put my AirPod in. I hope everyone can still hear me. So here's the deal. Let me make sure everyone can. Hashi, can you still hear me?
I can hear you and the broadcast, so I'm trying to figure that out.
Okay.
I am displaced from time.
Okay, well, while you figure out how to get out of the void, let me just tell you, I want to tell you, the viewer, something. I want you to imagine a person in your head. I want you to... You can hear me? All right. I want you to think of a person. Think of a person who is a director, a photographer, a writer, a visual effects artist, and a software designer. Imagine this person has a blog called ProLost, which is beloved by all of us. Imagine he's the chief creative officer at Maxon. Before that, he designed the Magic Bullet color grading system, co-created the Fountain screenplay format, and the screenwriting app Slugline. And before that, he wrote a book called the DV Rebels Guide, and the DV Rebels Guide, an all-digital approach to making killer action movies on the cheap. Before that, he co-founded the legendary effects firm The Orphanage. Before that, he spent 4 years at Industrial Light and Magic, where he worked on some of the most important movies of my lifetime, like Mission Impossible, Men in Black, Star Trek First Contact, and a little movie called Twister. And before that, folks...
What? The Twister?
The Twister. And
the epic adaptation of the classic board game.
Incredible. They went a very different creative direction. And before all of that, folks... He was human, just like us, but not anymore. Today, welcome to the show, Mr. Stu Maschwitz. Thank you for being here, sir.
Hey, guys.
Stu.
Hey.
Hey,
wow.
It's so good to see you, man.
It's fun to be here. I'm on the show.
You're on the show. Usually you're out there having a comment, like some kind of chump.
I love it. I know. I've really enjoyed, being on the sidelines. This can't possibly be nearly as fun as making fun of you guys from a safe distance.
It can't.
Nope, you're in it now.
I'm in it.
Oh, man. So, look, something that is no secret to anyone. Well, first off, before I get to any of that, you know what? We made a list of the things we're going to talk about today. We didn't talk about in what order we were going to talk about them.
No. We're sitting with Stu. He's worked on the entire list that Seth just mentioned, which is ridiculous because it immediately summons a billion questions from your entire VFX childhood.
Like, how could you possibly be this old? I think is the main question.
And still looks so great.
Aw, so great. And he keys so well too. That doesn't really transfer with age very well.
No, that's
Stu,
a skill.
The thing that Stu has blessed me with throughout our friendship is up until we were in the middle of a pandemic, we would regularly see each other in Portland once a year at the Red Giant All Company meeting. And it was very early on, once I had started at the company, where Stu, I don't remember what story it was, but you started to tell a story like from ILM, and then you paused in this way of like, oh, no one cares about this. And then you looked at me, we made eye contact, and you said, oh, wait. You either said, oh, wait, you're here, or you went, oh, wait, you love this inside baseball stuff, and like rolled up your sleeves and just got to work telling me about helicopters in John Knoll's office, and it was the greatest.
Yeah, I do have that thing where no one would know it from my online presence, but I actually do always worry that people are super bored with what I'm talking about, but I'm never worried about that when I'm with you, Seth.
Yeah, boredom by proximity.
Nice
it is. Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to provide people the feeling of being interesting by proximity and by comparison.
Oh, phenomenal.
Yeah, I have the clip. Just because I have the clip, let's just show it. This is one of this is the scene that you actually did a really great Twitter thread about a couple years back when it was like the however many year anniversary of Twister. But this shot was like one of your first big shots, wasn't it? Was the house shot?
Yeah, it was a. So it was right after Mission Impossible, and I had kind of secured myself a reputation of being good at what at the time at ILM was referred to as hard surface, animation or whatever, to distinguish it from the creature visual effects that the pipeline there was really built around. It's one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about the history of Mission Impossible and the work we did with the helicopter and the tunnel and all that, is that it was kind of a pipeline buster for ILM, because it wasn't a dinosaur or a Jabba the Hutt or whatever. So then, Twister was really kind of the domain of the super nerds at ILM who were doing the particle simulations and stuff, and they had set these shots aside as these kind of special cases that required more of a hand animated approach, I guess. And so my schedule freed up just in time to be put on this little group of 4 shots here.
This one in particular, I love having it on a loop, because the specific little details, which if any one of these are not, from my understanding, everything here is you, right? Everything that's attached to the house or related to the house or coming off the house, that's you, right?
Yeah. Yes. So Pat Neary helped me with the particle stuff of the flying debris that goes by in the foreground, and I can't remember what did I think he composited the shot as well, because there was so much animation and lighting to do that I was busy for I think I got 4 months to do this shot. And which is just unheard of today.
Yeah, but it's also why this looks so damn good.
Well, and it was still, this is like my thing about kind of this era of ILM that I know you love, Seth, is that this was still in this kind of transitional time between what, I consider to be the golden age of visual effects, where they were integrated into production in a way that had like a little bit of pomp and ceremony to it, where, okay, it is now time for an optical shot, bring out Dennis Muren, bring out the VistaVision camera, like there was a ceremonial, like everything is different when we're doing visual effects kind of thing, And so this shot, so Twister is among the last movies to be shot with that kind of classic ILM mentality. And in a way, it's almost like a weird kind of preemptive version of like what you see now, where a Mission Impossible movie will be shot with one kind of camera for most of it, but then we'll have like an IMAX style camera for the action scenes or whatever. So the visual effects shots in Twister feel different because they're shot with different cameras, different lenses, and yet the conscious effort is to integrate them into the photography of the rest of the movie. But the like weird kind of subcurrent of it is the visual effects shots have a little bit of extra zhuzh to them for like all that je ne sais quoi of like fancy cameras and whatever.
They do. I was watching What Lies Beneath, I think. No. Sorry. It was the other Zemeckis weird one. It was the Death Becomes Her.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which is which is a favorite of my wife's, and the first mirror transfer where we move into the mirror and we we see that age transformation happen. The shot opens up and it's like you feel that extra bit of grain, like it's that extra little bit of like VistaVision grain, and it's moving in a way to where you're like, we're about to watch a visual effect now that is this wonderful feeling that like I loved. Like
yeah, it's so wild to that we were so geeked on it that we kind of picked up on that. So it's fun to be a part of that tradition, even as it was kind of on its way out. But yeah, this shot was known to, early on that it was going to just be kind of a case of just needing to chisel away at the problem in a kind of highly manual fashion.
I promise not to make you talk about Twister beyond this shot. And I do want to talk about it for 2 hours, but just a couple details that I love every time is the for sale sign floating almost just in the border of cartoonish in the way that it's like right before you see the house, and then the way it just and the way it spits out the tub. It's so good.
Thank you. I don't know if I can claim credit for the idea of the for sale sign. That probably came from Mr. DeBont, but the tub was my idea, and I went to the modeling department. I asked them to make me a clawfoot tub, and
it's just that tub is the casualty of this car wreck. It just it's like flying out the windshield.
Yeah, it was. That was a real treat the day that model came in. The house was built, not by me, but it was built to be taken apart. But it wasn't rigged in any way. So I animated it in Softimage, and each
board by board.
Each board and whatever is, its own individual object that is kind of separated in the hierarchy. But I didn't have any chops in terms of like my technical ability to do something like remove a board from the hierarchy of the house's animation and transition it to a different one. So I would just literally have 2 copies of the geometry in there, and then I would have to go into the render scripts and say, on this frame, stop rendering this board as part of the house and start rendering its twin that I've then animated to fly through the air. So there was a lot of typing involved in this shot.
Oh wow!
That's now like the Seth Worley way of doing. That's the most. It's just like this inefficient but quick and dirty. Oh my god, not quick and dirty. Thank God you had 4 months or however many you said for.
Every single one of 4 billion steps is quick and dirty.
That's it. That's it.
And then the other thing that I think is fun to note about this shot is that it's a broad daylight, sun and shadow shot that, again, today with, modern rendering engines would be nothing, right? You'd throw a sky dome at it and it'd be done. But back then that was not possible. And I had done enough lighting to be kind of frustrated with the limitations of just using, of not having any kind of indirect bounce or anything like that. We didn't even really have the terms like global illumination back then or anything, but I knew what I was missing. And so I created this sky dome by just manually placing lights around a hemisphere around the house, and each one is casting soft shadows. And as a result, every frame of this took probably between 8 to 12 hours to render. So it was kind of so I wouldn't run the shot very often, a full render, because it was expensive and it took up a lot of resources. So it was kind of a thing where when SH1 was going to get rendered, like the nighttime crew would be kind of alerted, like, okay, Stu's shot is coming through, and I'd get like this allocation of processors, and we'd hope it was done by the morning.
Oh, that's incredible.
Now, Stu, the chat is having an argument. Well, not an argument, I should say, a slight disagreement about whether or not the trees are CG.
Is that a 2D?
Some folk.
Is that just a flat bed of trees there?
No, so it's in the plate, and it wasn't augmented in any way. So it was carefully rotoscoped.
I thought it'd be
hand
a card
by someone. No, it's really there. It was that they shot it. They found this location specifically for this reveal, so it was scouted specifically to allow for this. But yeah, no, it's such
a great shot, because you just see the wind, then you see something,
it's
and
the
then
little
bam,
hint of it.
right
Yeah,
there.
it's the little shark fin that kind of comes up over the corner.
It's
such a great reveal.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean that's Jan. I mean that's why I was so incredibly stoked to work with him. I mean, I'll just like be brutally honest. Like, so again, to kind of characterize the difference between maybe how visual effects are done today and back then, Jan de Bont came to ILM a lot, you know. We didn't have, you know, Frame.io and that kind of stuff. We could do iNet transmissions where he could see a standard def version of a thing, but if he wanted to see a shot on film, he had to come see it at C Theater. Otherwise, we'd be shipping him reels of film that was not commonly done. So he was up there probably every 2 weeks, and I had a copy of the script at my desk because back then
you could
people
read
wanted
those.
to know things about the movie they worked on. So somewhere I have a signed copy of the script of Twister.
Well, that's something you've never told me before.
Well, and it was, you know, Seth, it's like all I could do not to just go full Chris Farley on him and just be like, so remember
Speed? Remember everything about Speed? Remember when you shot Die Hard? Yes, I was working my way back.
It's like, you know, I tried to keep it cool, but like, you know, I was like 22 years old or something. Like, I'm sure I was not cool.
No, I've seen pictures. You were cool.
There's no question that I was not cool.
Oh gosh, you said something a second ago that made me. Oh no, it was the tree question. So we made a promo for this episode and didn't show it to you before we started playing it.
No, you did not.
But I sat there like, trying to match the animation of your house and apply it to your face, and
thanks.
And I was like, you know, I'm sitting here breaking apart this shot that Stu spent 4 months on. I'm like re-rotoing these trees and like doing all this stuff. And my son comes in. I go, hey, check this out. And he goes, did you have to cut those trees out? He first immediately looks at it like, did you have to mask those trees? And I was like, and we ended up breaking the shot apart together. Right. Yeah, he knew the right words. But we were like breaking the shot apart together. And I was like, well, look at the original. This is so cool. Look, Stu had to do each of these boards one by one, etc. And so if you ever meet my son, you're just going to have to retell him everything that you told us and told me.
I love my son said something that was a great VFX thing, which was like he squinted at something and he said, I think this show is mocap. I don't think they're animating that. And I was like, whoa, this is referring to, I can't remember what it's called.
Sid the Science Kid?
It's a Henson one. They're
that's Sid, but maybe something else.
They're like dancing and talking about math, and they've got big feet, and they have like a puppeted face and a mocapped body that they capture live.
Yeah,
so I'm forgetting what it's called.
Sid the Science Kid does that. It may not be what you're talking about, but that Elliot and I had the same interaction on Sid the Science Kid. He was like, there's something weird about the way they move. They move like they're bigger than they actually are. And then that led us down the rabbit hole of Henson's whole motion capture thing that they do.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so if anyone has not seen Stu's amazing digital short Tank, or the equally compelling making of, I always highly recommend those two as a small way to like crawl into Stu's brain.
The making of Tank especially is the one how to crawl into Stu's brain.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I knowing that someone would be willing to make things that hard on themselves to make them that good made me feel not alone in
Yes.
Well, thanks, dude. Yeah. Very kind people have asked about a sequel to Tank, and it sort of feels like after giving birth to triplets, people asking you if you're going to have any more kids. I love my kids, but
that was a lot of work.
I think I'm good.
Excellent.
We can always come back to all the things we were just talking about, but it's no secret to anyone we all work in the same place. And that place is that place. Well, just like we're physically in the same place right now.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Hi.
A little cramped here, but nice
and
to be hanging out with you guys.
That place is Maxon, a company that just this week released a ton of new things, as Michael tried to spoil for all of us, even though it was on spoiler. It's a real known thing. And the stewiest of these new things, I would say, is this new addition to VFX Suite called Bang. Stu, are you cool if we talk about Bang for a little bit?
Absolutely. I'm super excited about Bang.
Can you give us some backstory? I know this existed prior, but then we took it. And it's ours now. No, I'm kidding. It's not ours.
No, I'm super happy to give the backstory because it's a funny one to me. So I wrote this book, The DV Rebel's Guide, like you mentioned, and there's a whole chapter in there about digital gunfire. So I, grew up loving the action movies of the 80s and was lucky enough to be a kid at a time where the presence of a gun on screen meant that you were watching something that was fantasy.
Yeah.
So I had this really kind of love of like the way that guns were a part of the drama and kineticness of the movies that I loved. And like any dorky kid with a camera wanted to find a way to replicate that and wanted to do it safely. So had this kind of whole pipeline around shooting with airsoft guns or whatever kind of like toy gun I could paint black or whatever, and adding muzzle flashes, among other things like flying shells and stuff in post. And I kind of codified all that in the book, and there's a bunch of stuff in there about, the specifics of like why to use this flash with this type of gun or whatever. And then, little by little, there started to become, I would like hand paint these muzzle flashes basically for as in an After Effects and line them up. And then people started to want to sort of help out dorks like us by shooting elements. So they'd actually like fire a gun in a dark stage and get a nice image of it. And that felt like a godsend to me, but of course it always had the limitation of like, you could only get it from one angle. Usually there'd be some kind of overexposure in the middle of the flash, which would mean that it'd be hard to adjust it to fit into your shot that maybe isn't shot in the dark, etc. So I started to formulate an idea for a plugin to create 3D muzzle flashes in After Effects, and I actually built a prototype of it and brought it to the founders of Red Giant and said, I want to make this plugin. And they said, absolutely not, no way, no one will ever use it, it's a dumb idea. and they were probably right. But I was like sad, and I kind of slunk away and thought, okay, I guess I'll just stay working on Magic Bullet and like I'm told. And then I don't know, it felt to me like it was a matter of like a few months went by before Bang came out. And I looked at Bang and just thought, well, that is weird because obviously someone tunneled into my brain and saw all of my blueprints and like that I wish that I would have been smart enough to make, but way better, way more thought through, and like with so much detailed control that I would have actually been embarrassed to put in because I would have thought no one will ever love muzzle flashes as much as I do. So I reached out to the developer, Christian Lett, and I just said, dude, you nailed it. Congratulations. This is amazing. Can I be a beta tester? Like, can I buy it 12 times to thank you for how awesome this is? And have been a devout lover and user of it ever since. And have really, it's really never been far from my mind that this was just a plugin that I felt needed more attention, more eyes on it, and maybe just a little bit more of the kind of glorious resources that we have to help make these things more awesome. So, as a part of trying to bring the VFX Suite to life, it's only a couple years old now, and VFX Suite is still finding its identity as a collection of effects. We have stuff for cleanup and for tracking, and we have Super Comp, which I'm always gratified to see you guys using on this show. But I want it to just continue to evolve as this incredible tool set of like necessary effects that maybe you don't use them every day, but the day you do use them, they save you tons and tons of time and effort. And so I'm super stoked to kind of have Bang be among the first of those kinds of tools that we're adding to VFX Suite. So we got to work directly with Christian, and we kind of cleaned it up and improved the experience and added some of the nice, Red Giant goodies like our optical glow and things like that. And we've got Bang in VFX Suite 2.0.
It's
couldn't be
such
happier.
a freaking cool. It's one of those things you open it up and it's immediately fun because you like apply it and then there's a gun wireframe and there's already a flash and there's a big button that says Bang that you push and it creates. It's just like it's so cool and fun. And of course, the first things that Hashi and I think of are like, what else can we use this for besides guns? And so I think we might try to do a little bit of that today, but I do want to. I've sat in rooms, dude, where like you talked about you've given us like VFX history lessons.
Sure.
Can we talk about Robocop a little bit and some of this? Like, well, I tell you what, let's get into this however you want to get into this. I just know that I prepped a Robocop clip, and that means you're going to be talking about Robocop, which means I want to get to that very quickly.
Yes. Let's switch over to the Robocop image on screen too. I think the loop is.
This one's going to end people. So hang on, let me switch over to Stu's. Here, let's look at Stu's After Effects. Why don't we?
Yeah, let's get to Robocop, but we can just kind of talk a little bit about like what you were saying about Bang here. So, the big thing that we added to this version is that we now kind of have these gun wireframes here. So, it just makes it so super easy to just position the flash in the right place,
Like, look at that. And what I love about having you involved with the plugin is that object with nothing else looks better than when you composite stuff into a shot in general. It already has the right bloom and it has so many things going for it just as it comes in, and I love that.
That's all. Let's dive into exactly why that is. So, first of all, it's just really easy to get started with this, right? Like, so this was something that Christian had already done a beautiful job of, was creating all these presets, right? So right away, you don't really even have to know what you're doing. You can just kind of, I'm going to pick generic 9mm pistol here, and it's, awesome. But then this is the part that when I saw this, because this was a part of Bang 1.0, that you can just kind of sculpt the contour of this thing is like, I mean, come on, like, nobody, what did I do to deserve somebody just making this for me? Like, it's so for me, right? But yeah, so then you can see, okay, so we're out in the forest here in kind of broad daylight, and one of the things that we learned from the reference is that a flash will look bright in a dark environment, but typically in a daylight environment, maybe not so much. Maybe it's going to look a little, the exposure comparatively will be darker compared to the rest of the shot. And so that's really where using elements kind of falls apart, right? Because the elements tend to be shot on a dark stage, and no matter how much dynamic range you try to capture, you're probably going to be blown out in the middle. And so my favorite thing to do with these Bang flashes is just take the After Effects exposure and just drop it down. So this is the view exposure, and you can just see that there's HDR detail.
Look at that
in the flash, and it's a true volumetric render.
Those are particles?
It's actually it's millions and millions of particles, like
wow,
so many that it's almost like one per pixel basically. And it renders, this fast, and so that alone is kind of amazing. But of course, what that allows, aside from like a full sort of, log-friendly HDR compositing pipeline, et cetera, is it allows you to just adjust the brightness down, and so you just have like an infinite supply of, the right kind of flash. And then you can vary that brightness. There's a brightness random control, so each flash can have a different brightness. So if you're doing automatic fire, you get a bunch of randomization for free. That we added that I think is where where some of the Magic Bullet and VFX Suite stuff intersected really well with what was already awesome about Bang is, for instance, we added this highlight roll-off control here. So actually, if I take highlight roll-off to 0, you'll see even more of that HDR effect. You know, so now it's like it's super blown out, but there's a ton of HDR detail in there. Like these pixel values are coming in at like 2 and 3 on a scale of 0 to 1. Or you can crank up highlight roll-off all the way, and it's going to probably be subtle, but you can kind of see that like I'm now kind of giving a soft like shoulder to the exposure of it, all without composited onto this video background. And then the other thing we have in VFX Suite is we have, you know, in Super Comp we have heat blur, which was one of my favorite ways to improve the realism of things like fire and flamey things that we're trying to composite over that typically they would just be sort of transparently added on. So we added heat blur to Bang. So I think if I crank this up, yeah, so you can see now I'm like smudging out. That's too much, but it's just so you can kind of see the effect. I'm smudging out the background. And we even have a heat blur delay, so we can even get a little bit of residual heat. See it right there?
Oh,
that's ridiculous.
So that's the heat. And so let me just show you like where that inspiration came from. So one of my favorite things about what passes for my job is that I get to just sit and like geek out on the movies that I love and call it work. So so this shot from Point Break, I always remember being able to visually see the heat ripples coming off of his gun in this shot. And it really helps that it's telephoto, right? But this is such great reference because you've got the great flash there, and you can kind of see what I was showing where it's kind of fuzzing out the background. But then on the next shot, you see the distortion of the car behind him there, right? So that gaseous explosion is continuing to expand after it's given up all of its like visible heat energy, and what friend of the show Todd Vaziri likes to point out is that the truly gutsy move when you're adding muzzle flashes to a shot is to not necessarily add them for every frame. So in the days of film, when you're shooting an action scene, one of the jobs of the camera operator would be to report back to the rest of the crew whether or not they saw muzzle flashes through the viewfinder. And perhaps counterintuitively, if they did not see muzzle flashes through the viewfinder during the take, that was good news, because the camera operator on a 35mm motion picture camera doesn't see what gets recorded to film. They see the exact opposite. So you're shooting 24 frames per second, and there's a rotating shutter that's opening up 1/48 of a second, so half the time of the frame's duration is devoted to, you know, the capture of the frame. The other half, a mirror rolls through and blocks the light from hitting the film so the film can be advanced to the next frame.
You just answered a question I've never gotten a chance to ask because we don't do this stuff anymore. I had no idea that's how it worked.
Yeah. So that's what a reflex camera is. So like the mirror on the spinning shutter bounces the light through the prism to go through the viewfinder. So a camera operator might turn to, you know, Catherine Bigelow and say like, hey, I saw a bunch of muzzle flashes on that take, you know, and that would be bad, and they would refilm it because they want to see him. So in this shot, here's a frame where he fires and we don't see the flash. We see the tail end of the flash. And so let's go back to so being a where'd my little pistol guy go? Where'd you go, pistol? All right, there you are. Okay, so being a Stu plugin, we can actually do that. So we have the flash age, and we have this heat map delay, and they can kind of conspire to basically allow you to capture the flash at whichever moment in time you want, or you can just randomize it and have it be different on every frame, which is a pretty amazing looking effect. So here's flash age, and this is
my favorite part of this entire plugin.
Yeah, me too. I was like, you can actually see little sparks coming out of it and everything.
Yeah, we'll turn the sparks on so we can see that too. I don't think this preset uses them, but yeah. So early on, so look what happens early on in the Flash's life. First of all, it's bluer because it's hotter, because Christian put in this control, which is where is it? Energy affects color temperature. So because all the particles have energy, and the energy dissipates, so we have 80% energy affects color temperature, which means when they're super hot, they're both super bright and super blue. Amazing. So then we can move through the flash age and see the flash
it's so
older.
cool.
Yes.
And then you can see it leave behind just its heat.
That's so good.
So of course everyone sees that and wants immediately to do like Trinity jumping out of the window and shooting back at the agent who's jumping out after her. And I just want to caution you against doing that, because unless you're literally doing the Matrix, which people still are.
Yeah, losers do entire live show.
These losers are still out there making Matrix movies. I cannot wait for that Matrix movie.
So cool.
Where is I've got a little treat for you guys here, so hold on. All right, so I was on the set of a movie where I was in charge of enough stuff, and they left me alone with enough toys that I was able to take a Phantom camera and just photograph somebody shooting an AK-47.
Can you say what movie that was?
This is an outtake from The Spirit.
That's what I thought.
Because Seth, you know that like my filmography is full of nothing but movies that everyone loves.
Hey, you worked on some Star Wars movies though.
Yeah, I did. In everyone's favorite Star Wars. I took those beloved movies and I made them even more.
I set you up for that one. I apologize. That was a bad hosting on my part.
So this is this. I think I shot this at either 800 or kind of was the max that the Phantom would do at full HD, and so what you see is that it's even at that speed. And this is kind of some really useful reference for us to look at like the lifespan of a muzzle flash and really try to capture like what was special and interesting about it. Even at that speed, the flash only lasts like 3 or 4 frames. So what that means is that
you're using a Phantom. So this is like really super slow motion, and the flash is still only there for a couple of frames.
Yeah, I mean, look at the
slow-mo muzzle flashes are ridiculous. Is what you're saying?
Slow-mo muzzle flashes are ridiculous, and this is like, you gotta trust me on this one. And even if you're shooting 120 frames per second, 240 frames per second, a muzzle flash does not last longer than a frame. And if you make it last longer than a frame, the corridor guys will make fun of you. Like,
sorry.
So don't do it.
I love that is the industry-wide fear.
Yes.
Now.
Yeah. So this is look. I have gone to great lengths to prove to you that unless you go to great lengths, you really can't get a muzzle flash to last longer than a frame. So please, this is my use bang responsibly admonishment here. But yeah, so it was really fun to work with Christian and sit and look at reference like this to study, what like the right, kind of way to treat this heat thing was. And of course, the way he did that is he just did a completely separate particle simulation for the heat. So, and you can actually see that if you want. So let's go back to that. There's that flash age. We'll put that back in kind of the sweet spot. If you want to just see the particles that make up the heat blur, you can also use it for some displacement as well. there's a little checkbox here. You can say show heat blur
which
map.
makes for its own cool
so you can
look
actually
on its
see
own.
what. Yeah, exactly. That was exactly what I told Christian. I'm like, if you want to leave that in there, people are going to use this to make.
It's absolutely going to show up on YouTube, like in people's like videos.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing that I think is kind of fun to talk about, right, is like why, like how do you know? Look at this beautiful UI for like these petals, right? So really tempting to just turn this on and have the little fancy starburst of petals around.
Crank it up, make them bigger.
But this is this is another one where I have to like admonish folks to practice safe visual effects and study.
You need an
your
alert
reference,
window
right?
that comes
So,
up that's just your face, like like.
Oh yeah, like if you have the wireframe, if you have the wireframe for a pistol, you should not allow petals to even show up.
All right, so I apologize.
Oh no,
for the
that
butt
lady!
just flashed by. So another scene from Point Break, and this guy's firing a Steyr AUG, which is the die-hardest of all guns. So that's he wins. I love the idea that these guys, these like surfer bums, would have like a $7,000 like European assault rifle in their arsenal, but whatever. It was the 80s, man. So petals. Why do petals? I think I have, where did that glorious reference go? Here we go. Okay. Oh, actually, I think I even there we go. Okay. So, all right. So here's one of my little prop guns that actually has a separate little flash suppressor. So this is just a Japanese airsoft gun of the second die-hardest gun of all time, the H&K. And so this is what the gun looks like. And if you were to fire bullets out of this gun, it would make a nice big round flash. But if you put this little doohickey on there, you can see 6 little veins through it, right? And so that is going to make for a 6-pointed star. So let's see, where do we go for that? We go to the elevator. Okay, so she's firing that exact prop, and so there's our 6 points. So this is fully synced. You are licensed to use the pedals. So if you want the pedals, you gotta use a gun. Or a gun that has that little flash numbers of holes in them, and that controls the number of the petals that come out. And like heat is a great reference for this. There's some really beautiful reference of how these kind of petals interact with a muzzle flash there. Yeah, this is a really fun example of.
Yeah, this kind of knowledge is it's so delightful to have access to, honestly.
Well, dude, that's what was so great about it. I don't know if you've read Stu's book. You have like a whole chapter on, in fact, on...
Well, that's why I thought Christian had just like tunneled inside of my brain. He probably just read my book and probably also was just incredibly smart on his own. And so it's not that much of a mystery like how he got it to work, but like, yeah, I mean... this sort of process of discovery of this stuff has been
well,
really fun.
I remember on Go Bag, there's a moment in one of the shorts, the Regina shorts. There's a scene where I had written that she's in this big old fist fight with these dudes, and then she manages to grab one of their guns finally, and pulls the trigger, and it's out of bullets. The old trope that it's out of bullets. Well, I've never used a real gun before.
Oh, yeah.
And you call me up and you're like, hey, Seth, so what's that about? Like, what is this? What's happening in this scene? Why isn't the gun working? I was like, it's out of bullets. You were like, okay, you didn't read my book. And you didn't say that, but you were like, I have a whole chapter in my book about how guns work. And you pull out this like prop gun and start showing me, and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way I can fix this now. So there's an inexplicable moment in the movie where she pulls the trigger and it doesn't work and it's not explained. And I learned the error of my ways.
Yeah, that's like so when you have a gun, this is a fake gun, and it is out of bullets. So that happens every time you shoot the gun. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but
let's go to the gun close-up shot. Here we are.
All right, so every time it fires, this slide ratchets back, right? But on the clip, there's actually a little button that engages with the little notch in the slide, and that button is held down by the bullets. And when the last bullet is gone, that button pushes up, and the slide... Ow.
Stu shot himself. You okay?
Safety first, everyone. Yes, the slide stays ratcheted back like that. The little button holds it in place. And when you do that, that's your clue that you should reload.
So like that.
You do, and then you have a little nugget right there. You push it down with your thumb, and it does that. All of these are cool things to do, and in movies like by, actors like, Jim Cameron and stuff, you'll see actors just do all of that stuff. Or you'll see, like one of my favorite action movie moments, I'm embarrassed to say, was it Armor of God? I think Jackie Chan, like, somebody puts a gun in his face, and Jackie Chan doesn't just say, but he actually thumbs down that slide and disassembles the gun, because that's step down. There's another little, there's this little thing. If you push that little thing down, the whole slide will just slide right off.
The stream has gotten very laggy.
The stream's gotten laggy?
Yeah, people are not getting to see these motions because it's just freezing up.
I figure out why. Stu,
my kids are home. They're watching Netflix.
Oh no, the kids are. They can't be. Well,
I can do it.
Millions are watching does not explain the lag, as we only have watching.
Well, we should keep talking guns, and I'll just start quitting things that use the internet.
This is your Robocop's gun, by the way. The Beretta 93 R, and it is a full auto 9mm. It has beautiful flash suppressor built into the barrel, so it shoots fire. And they modified it by adding a big, longer barrel to it for Robocop to fire it. And they wanted the flash to look really cool, and so they added extra vanes into that barrel extension that shoots fire gun without without Robocop's gloves on. You'd probably burn your hands, because the gun is literally just hand when it's shooting. But it has a 3-round burst mode, so every time he fires, you get 3 frames flash usually, or at least you're guaranteed to get. You're pretty good chance you're going to get one. Would see they'd pause through Robocop and they'd be like, "Well, mine can too." No, no, unless I know who's only appeared in Robocop and Femnic in the firing range.
Why you couldn't see Stu's guns? I actually think it's a memory issue. I think that my internet's fine. I think there's something weird going on with my RAM or something.
My RAM.
Hey, what? I saw us for a second.
Are you seeing anything on the thing?
For just a moment we were in real time, and then we weren't
on
again,
YouTube or on Skype.
Right. I think on both.
Waving around.
I mean, at least people can still hear us. The audio is fine. It's just the video that is.
Yes, this is now a podcast, everybody.
All right, Stu. So describe
the best medium
how Bang
for visual
works.
effects discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me know if there's anything I can do to make it more better.
Just move
Comes over and has a little too much whiskey and won't shut up about his history in the visual effects industry.
Yes. Well,
Seth,
yeah.
are we gonna have to restart? Or...
I actually just restarted and started back again. Tell me if it's still on the.
Hey, I see. I think
it should link to the same stream if I do that, and I just did it.
Hey, I think I'm moving. Yeah. All right. I think that we are back, everybody. Which is delightful. Because we want to play around with some of these wild effects and things that are happening.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've got stuff to do now. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So one of the things that I was curious to play around with is related. I think that if you don't know, we just released a new version of Trepcode Particular. And one of the things that I am tremendously excited about is the fact that we have now combined form and particular. And they both have such great functions for the types of effects that I like to do. And I've always lamented having to not being able to tie those two together and have them exist in the same 3D space. But my wish came true this week. And so I want to play around with trying to create a tornado using this new function, because I would love to have a tornado form, because it would be a static or a permanent array of particles doing their own thing without dying. But I would love to have debris that have a specific life cycle, or maybe fall off or bounce on the ground or are blown around. There are a million things I want to experiment with. To try that out.
I'm excited.
I'm going to allow you to see it in just a second. As soon as I... Sorry, guys. I was fixing the stream, and then my AirPods cut out, and so I couldn't hear you for a little bit. So I've just been nodding and smiling, hoping that...
You were Keanu looping.
Yeah. I'm just doing this.
Classic.
So
I just halfway through the stream remembered that I have a really fun shot from an Action Movie Kid that I never finished, but it is James running through a field, and it's motion tracked, and he's rotoed already. So,
our favorite parts to watch, and it's already been done.
So I'm sorry that you won't be able to see the roto process, though. You will have to see me try to find my my rotoed files. They got to be around here somewhere. All right, I'm going to dig that up.
I've got your AE on screen now, so hopefully we should be...
Excellent. So yeah, here I have this fun scene. I had previously used it for this short that I had filmed with James, that I still really like the idea of the short. I just haven't been able to finish it. So in the meantime, I ended up using it to do this 1917 kind of spoof shot a while ago, because it was already tracked, and that's always kind of lovely. Let me see if I can pull up that to loop in the background while I look for the rotoed footage here. Where would I have saved it? Probably around here, maybe? Oh yeah, I'll loop this over here. I don't think it's going to play the sound, but whoops, pardon me. Fitting that on screen. Whoops, maybe it's playing a sound. I don't know if you're hearing
I'm not hearing the sound.
Okay, good.
I forgot you did this.
So I used it to kind of spoof on this this shot before. And previously, before that, it was supposed to be this shot from this short that was based on a Viewmaster come to life, where the dinosaurs from a Viewmaster had come alive. And all James had the ability to do was pull the trigger, which would switch it to a different type of dinosaur in real life chasing him. But anyway, I'm going to try to add something to this, but I really want to find my rotoed James first. What else do we think we're going to do today?
Well, there's a couple things. So I wanted to, we were talking about Bang and how it's I noticed it's if you leave it on and don't click the Bang button, the add keyframe button, it does this like flickery, fractally, it looked like something specific, and I couldn't figure out what it was until middle of the night. I wake up in a sweat, and I'm like, Force Awakens! And it's that first shot.
Woke up the wife, woke up the kids.
I woke up everyone and told all of them. I called you. You were awake because you don't sleep. And it reminds me of that shot where in Force Awakens where, which, by the way, I don't think we give Force Awakens enough credit for the fact that right off the bat, it's just like doing stuff you've always wanted to see in Star Wars, but in a really great story context. And it's when the stormtrooper, Oscar Isaac's character fires the blaster at Kylo Ren, and he turns and force stops it, and then the phaser blast is just hovering in the air and flickering, and
so cool.
It made me think of that.
In love with that stuff. So cool.
And so
you know what? Can I interject? Because that is just that's like the magic of J.J. Abrams. Like, he is also living inside your head, and he's like, hey, Seth, I also always wondered what it would look like if you could freeze frame a blast bolt in midair.
That's why that first one's so good.
So let's just do it because they put me in charge, and now we can just do it. Let's go do it.
And that's what that first one he did is so freaking great, is because he's just like, it's like that first Pirates movie where they're just like, well, we're never going to get to make a pirate movie again. Let's do everything we've ever wanted to see in a pirate movie all in one movie.
Totally.
Yeah. Except tentacle beards. Let's save that for the next one.
Save tentacle beards. Yeah.
So I just wanted to have one of these muzzle flashes just hover in the air and see how it looked, and just recreate this. Which you don't need Bang to do this, but if you can do it with Bang, so I took a shot with Camtrack AR real quick earlier while Stu was talking. You can see me actually do it if you roll back in the show. Which imports, it does a LiDAR scan. I don't know what it does. It does, AR. It says an AR tracking while it films, and then it imports the camera track with the plate into After Effects. And so now I've got a muzzle flash just hovering in the middle of the air.
That's how we did the twister shot too. It was the same pipeline.
Oh, same pipeline, same. So
yeah.
So I'm going to... I'm just going to try this real quick. And then I thought I might, because other stuff came out this week, besides Bang, which is cool. We got a bunch of new stuff in particular. I thought I'd try to make a tornado again. I've done it a million times. I've tried a million times, never been able to quite crack it. So I figured I might just be over here fiddling with tornadoes while Hashi does his stuff.
Oh, man. Let's see. Right now I'm trying to find a roto plates, which are probably on a... This is why I prep for the show.
Yeah, it's so we can get 2 hours of us looking for old plates.
If you don't get to see me do the roto, you'll watch me look for it.
Stu, what are you doing?
I'm ready to talk about Robocop.
All right, I'm switching over to Robocop. Show me some things. You're on screen. It's Mr. Sulu.
All right, cool. So when Robocop fires his gun, it's that modified real gun. But when Ed 209 fires his gun, Ed 209 is a stop motion. Ed. What's that?
My favorite Ed.
Yeah, he's the best of the Eds. Named after Ed Neumeyer, the producer of the film, actually. These muzzle flashes, so Ed 209 is a stop-motion puppet animated by Phil Tippett, and you might be saying, hey, Stu, if he's stop-motion, why does he have motion blur? And I will tell you the answer to that question. It is because Phil Tippett has a little string attached to the model and is wiggling it during the exposure because he's a crazy person.
Isn't the other method bumping the table or drumming on the table while it takes?
Yeah, probably some combination of, depending on the action or the direction that it needed.
Can I interject
move,
with a very, very dumb joke that came up with other Red Giant employees a few years ago when we went to see that Kubo exhibit? And we all got to talking about Go Motion, which is, I think, what Phil Tippett calls the process of which he creates motion blur. And we were like, well, what exactly is it? And we look it up, and it's like the string, and it's sometimes bumping the table. And we were like, that's just a drunk stop motion animator. That's just this came up because some stop. And then we talked about how great a stop motion short would be if it was, if it was basically a stop motion film, but then like beer bottles were just kind of collecting in the frame at a certain point, and then after a while it like started to be all the frames in between when they would hit the frame. And it was basically, what if you told the story what if you told the story of a stop motion animator whose life was breaking down as they made the film, but only through the perspective of their lens.
Oh, I love it.
Anyway,
yeah, Go Motion is, strictly speaking, refers to the process of actually using stepper motors, like basically motion control gear that traditionally would be used to spin a little spaceship or move a camera around a stationary spaceship. On the movie Dragon, not Heart, but Dragon Slayer.
Because
right?
Dragon Heart was the I Am the Lost one. CG one.
Yeah, he's the CG one.
I go hard for Dragon Heart. I love
We all go hard for Dragon Heart.
It's that was the movie I didn't work on, so I could work on Mission Impossible. But they couldn't afford proper Go Motion on Robocop, so Phil just did it the old-fashioned way, which makes it all the more magic to me. So we all kind of understand how stop motion works, right? We move the puppet, we take a frame, we move the puppet, we take a frame. But in this case, this background is a projection, right? So there's no set here. There's a plate of the background that was shot on location, and then it was rear projected behind this little model of Ed 209. And so that's a separate exposure because it needs different light values, so different exposure times. So there's a lights off on Ed, background up exposure. Then there's beauty lighting on Ed exposure. And all this is happening while Phil is just standing there waiting, hoping that the lights all turn on and no bulbs burn out and whatever. And then on the flash frames, he's got a little socket in each of these guns that can take a little grain of wheat bulb. This is pre-LED. And so you stick a little grain of wheat, like Christmas light, in there. And he would then sculpt a little cotton muzzle flash and stick it over. So now the lights are off on Ed. The lights are off in the background. He's got, an exposure wedge, so he knows the right shutter time for these muzzle flash frames. And he takes this frame, and on some of these frames, you can actually see what look like little hairs.
Oh my gosh!
And it's so magic. And if they didn't want to see the perceived sort of like distinctness of the cotton, they had various techniques they could do. They could put a diffusion filter in for just that pass, or do multiple exposures. So let a little light in, close it down again, resculpt the cotton a little bit, get one more exposure out of it so that you get a little cross dissolve between two slightly differently fluffed versions of the cotton ball. So
that is amazing.
And then go back and be like, oh yeah, and wait, which part of him was moving where? And I forget to jiggle him with the string. And all of this, by the way, is without having any kind of video preview of this. Now when they're making like Kubo and whatever, they're shooting with the Dragon Frame software, which is amazing stop motion software. And they are seeing the shot, and they can actually go back. Like if they're like, oh, I screwed something up, they can go back 10 frames, reline up the puppet, and just pick it up and start filming again. Phil did not have that luxury. He's laying this all down a frame at a time. So, and then just to like appreciate the beautiful staging of this, as he's firing, that shot's real short. And then the very next shot is just all pure live action. You see the flashes going. That's just practical effects. Before the stunt double comes flying through, there's no Ed back there, but you saw the Ed should be where those flashes are, but he's not. But you don't care because you are so in the movie at this point, and RoboCop's getting rocked the staging of this scene, you're going to have to stop me from talking about it
Nope.
because it's
Nope.
just so insane.
No one stop him.
So I have a little, I don't know if my camera is still up, but I have this glorious little toy Ed 209. It's like kind of fancy, larger model of Ed 209. And I wanted to experiment with this in the context of Bang and try to channel a little bit of that glory of Phil and company. So I shot just this nice still, just locked off still, and then I shot interactive light passes for each side of him. So just made a little diorama out of my Pelican cases.
Wait, go back to the first shot you took, because it looks like an AO pass. It doesn't even look like a picture.
Yeah, I did use a big soft light, and I kind of had the same reaction. Like, I took this photo and I thought, well, that's just beautiful. Like, why is it so pretty? I don't know. It's a magical design. Like, he's a gloriously beautiful thing. Ed 209 is like my favorite buddy. So here's what the interactive light passes look like.
He's so friendly.
Yes.
You could cuddle.
So friendly.
He's just your bud. Yeah.
Well, take him to the office.
You know, by the way, if you're interested in the history of this VFX stuff, like, get the Cinefx Classic app on your iPad and download the issue.
Is it still functioning?
Of this, long out of print. It's working fine on iOS 14. It's got some bugs on iOS 15. So if you haven't upgraded to the public beta of iOS 15,
do we know how long that's
going to
last? Now that they're,
you know what, I don't care whose lawn I have to stand on with what boombox.
Just buy an iPad, like an old iPad. Never update it. Just so you
never
can
connect
have
it to the
access
internet.
these.
Just download them all.
Cheaper than buying the back issues on eBay.
Although someone in this
the
thread,
Robocop
someone
Cinefx.
in our comments is selling a chunk of Cinefx. I guarantee you, between all of us, we could acquire an entire collection and somehow.
It's such an important historical thing. At some point, like, it's just got to go into the Library of Congress.
Yeah.
But the issue on Robocop is spectacular because they don't just talk about the effects; they talk a lot about the production itself. And that you hear about the design of Ed 209 and why he has this big radiator grill. Obviously, it's to make him look scary, make him look like a shark or like an orca or something like that. But it's also an intentionally stupid design. They intentionally made this massive vulnerability right in his front. So, like, obviously, like, if he's like a car, it's just a Detroit story, right? So he's supposed to look like a big dumb American car that comes to life and wants to murder you. And it's like intentionally stupid design. And when I read that, my little young mind just exploded with glee at like how quietly brilliant Robocop is, even when it's being so loudly brilliant.
Some of our viewers might not be aware of what a Cinefx is, as they are asking about it.
Well,
in
that
the chat.
sucks.
So, Michael, it's made of paper.
Help make their lives
start
better.
There. Paper is made for the pulping process, where they take a tree. So trees. Let's back up. Sorry.
Oh, you there?
Oh. I am. I was going to stop talking and let Michael. I felt like I had inappropriately interrupted Michael.
Oh, no, that's what you do to Michael. You're supposed to inappropriately interrupt him while he's trying to give the people real information.
Yes, Cinefx is an amazing physical magazine, and
you might need to describe magazines.
That's why I was going back to trees.
Yeah, I think trees were a good place to start.
Yeah,
they are. These. They're a really cool journal. You can tell that they're kind of thick.
Are those all Dragonheart issues? No, they're not. It'd be funny if they were all Dragonheart issues.
And what's nice is that these are kind of behind-the-scene visual effect journals that don't do the... they're not pandering to an entertainment audience. They are specifically getting into the nitty-gritty of a visual effects artist. So they will talk about the laborious process of modeling something or building it, or things that worked or didn't work out during the process. They'll interview people about all the things that went poorly along the way. There are usually spoilers in them, so make sure you've seen the movie first. They'll say, like...
And here's how we did it, yeah. Hey, before I try to do a tornado, by the way, I want to bring to light. We both have it up, Hash. Yeah.
Oh, do we both? Okay.
Our own Michael has he created a tornado already. He did. He cracked it, and it looks rad as hell.
So
this is this past April.
Let me tell you, the vast majority of this is just Fractal Noise with the perspective offset turned on. Sorry, I should say VR Fractal Noise, so there's no seam, and then just animating it going this way on CC cylinder. So I'm just moving the Fractal Noise on a cylinder, and it just makes the whole thing look like it's rotating. But then I took Hashi's technique to make the Druun, where he put he did that whole crazy technique on a sphere.
Yeah.
I used it on a cylinder to give that extra 3D depth on the edges. So it's just Fractal Noise on a CC cylinder with roughen edges, both animated to make it look like it's going this way. And then I used Hashi's technique to add that little extra puffiness to the outside. And of course, trap code particular for the debris at the base of the tornado. Now I should say, for any weather nerds, that sometimes tornadoes in this hemisphere do spin that way, even though it's very rare. They do occasionally spin this direction in this hemisphere, but you don't know. I could have been doing a tornado in a different hemisphere, so hush,
Michael?
weather nerds. It's possible, or I could have been doing it somewhere else.
I have like 5 things I need to slam my fists on the table about from all of that. You need to talk slower so I can respond passionately in response to the things you're saying.
Go ahead.
In time with them. Good Lord, this is so good. And you're, I actually, my favorite part is your weather afterward, your epilogue about said tornado.
I felt that the spin direction was more like, since it was moving from screen left to screen right, I wanted the spin to be going from screen right to screen left is more visually appealing. But the answer is it could physically be doing that, even though they tend not to. Like 95% of the time, tornadoes in this hemisphere spin the opposite direction.
Well, this is it. You did it. I've been wanting to figure out how to do this just in After Effects for years, and it was right there all along.
Oh yeah, it's so simple. So it's just a solid layer, obviously. Fractal Noise with the button for perspective offset checked, and then animate the noise going one direction. And then CC cylinder, mess with the lighting to make it look, soft. And then I used, I can't remember if it was mesh warp or Bezier warp to make the tornado's shape change. And then, like I said, Hashi's technique to get those extra puffs. And then, of course, particular to get the debris flying up at the bottom. I keyframed how much particles of which kind were coming out. So it was the full thing. You could see it hit a building and then go through a field, then hit another building at the end. Because you see bursts of debris coming up. I was just using the fluid physics in particular to make that happen.
So cool.
And Magic Bullet looks to add, a look to the whole thing, and universe camera shake, because, what's an action scene without some movement?
Now, Stu, you did, I see what you're doing on your screen. I'm going to come over to you. Can you show that to me?
Yeah.
That's, where are you? Hey, you guessed. Here you are.
Yeah, so back when I did that crazy sort of Twitter thread about the history of the spinning house shots in Twister, I did kind of want to make some commentary about how far visual effects technology has come since then. So I'm not sure why this isn't looping better, but...
Is it in Teams? No, it's not.
Teams hates looping.
Teams hates fun. It's like, we know you want to turn this GIF off after seeing it once.
Yeah, so kind of in the middle of doing this thread, I was just like, oh yeah, I could try to make a tornado in Twister. So that's my particular tornado with sort of a separate particular to blow.
How big are the particles
in front of us? They're big. They're chunky.
You're just getting like
these contours here. You're seeing
chunky boys.
Yeah, they're chunky boys. They're cloudlets, which has that great sort of interactive lighting cheat.
The early mistake that I made, like in trying to create smoke or dust with particular, was going small and thinking it needs to be tons and tons and tons, like the Bang, flashes, like it needs to be tons and millions of small particles, but it doesn't. It just needs to be big old cloudlets with like 1% opacity and shadowlets like layered up, and then you get something really nice looking.
Well, Yeah, I genuinely did take that inspiration from the real work on Twister because they couldn't render millions and millions of particles, and so what they would do is they do particle instancing. So it is almost exactly what cloudlets are, where each particle each particle that is simulated is a clump of additional particles. So I just wanted.
I love this because I mean a tornado is just particles. Is all a tornado is. It's wind blowing stuff around.
Yeah, and I've always loved this kind of like pyroclastic look, and it's just kind of shocking to me how good Particular can make it look with the shadowlets, so I kind of wanted to just celebrate like how fun it is to be able to do the interactive lighting, which was...
Oh yeah, that lighting is gorgeous.
Yeah, it was a fun little project, and then you throw a little Magic Bullet Mojo on there and a little camera shake, and I added a little windshield, and fun little project.
Hey, I made my blaster. Here's my floating blaster beam just sitting in the air.
That is so good.
I love it. You're just sitting there waiting for Kylo's.
Yeah, I think the original had a little bit of a direction blur on it. Maybe, but
dude, that looks so good.
I actually made
really
that a
cool.
while back. I made that. Not by a while back. I mean like. Whenever I said, hey, I'm going to open this up and make this, it took me like 30 seconds. So it's just been playing here. So you guys can recreate Force Awakens with Bang all you want or do cool floating things. It's even funnier with the gun.
What are you doing for the the motions from the AR?
Yeah, it's from the camera. I just I was tired of it trying to... well, the truth was, it shot it at 60 frames per second. I was tired of rendering 60 frames, and also it looked gross. And so I switched the comp to 2397 and just turned my plate off because then my plate looked like garbage. User error. Had nothing to do with Bang.
Oh, lovely. Well, now that I've seen way better tornadoes, I'm going to try to demo a new feature of Particular.
Are you going to try the flocking tornado then?
I was just going to try creating a form object in Particular, and then adding separate emitters and things like that. But
you do that. That sounds.
Are you sure? Yeah, you. It sounded like you had a plan to try.
No,
so...
I think that your plan sounds sensible, and mine. So why don't you do the sensible thing, and I'll do the thing that won't work.
All right, so it's a competition to see who can break our new feature the most spectacularly.
Well, I think I did it on the 3D motion show. If you go back and watch it, so I beat you to it. But
oh, lovely. So many of you are familiar with Trapcode Particular. We use it all the time. I am here in the designer window, and what I'm going to do in here is. Like I said last week, it's always really fun to get your motion working first before you get into all the details of everything. And I would like the emitter in this case to not be a single point. I'd like it to be a 3D model. And we'll select a little 3D model from the library here. I'm going to go with, let's see. Where we got it. I think that we have just a standard cone in here.
I was going to say you're scrolling past a new one other feature that we haven't talked about, that there's new models just in the library now, borrowed from the Cinema 4D asset library.
Oh, absolutely.
There's a whole new section of models
human
to base
torsos and heads,
stuff off.
Humans, faces.
Which I thought it'd be fun to track that face onto my face and do like a "I'm dissolving" thing, and haven't had time to.
So that's a free one for you folks in the chat. You can take that idea and run with it.
I'm dissolving. You have to use that audio.
I'm dissolving. Yes, you do. So here I have an array of particles that are, emitting from a 3D object. Big deal. We knew it could do that. But right here under emitter behavior, I can change this to being a form object, which is really great because now these particles are permanent. They live in this array, and I can kind of work with them. They don't need to die over time. I can just kind of create a group of them like this. And what's fun about that is that now I can mix it in 3D space. For example, I'll just do a really bad example. We'll Let's see. Let's change these to a different color just for fun. Whoops.
Actually, I was going to say, in case you didn't know, you did not change the color.
Aw.
So here we go. We now have the ability to. Oh, my scene is a motion tracked one, so it's trying to orbit around the center. But I can now have a particle system and a form system that interact. So, for example, if these particles were larger, watch this. So if these were thick particles, you could see the little red ones poking through and coming out of them. Little Christmas tree emitting stuff. And just like Seth was mentioning earlier, using just a few particles with shadowlets on, you get a really quick read of something that is kind of volumetric. So I really like this. And I also love that to this I could, first of all, let's rotate it upside down. I'm going to disable this other system here. Let's delete that. And another new feature of Particular, right now this is called the primary system, but I can go down here and say rename a system. So I could call this the main tornado or something like that. And now I'll know what system that is if I want to turn it on or off later. And here in the emitter arrangement, I will go ahead and turn this thing upside down a bit.
While
There we
Hashi
go.
is doing that, I just want to do a quick rundown of my favorite things in the new version of Particular. Besides the fact that you've got form pretty much brought over, it also brought over kaleidospace from form, which is the ability to mirror in 3D space your particles on X, Y, or Z, or any mix of those. But you can have child particles emitting from those mirrored systems that aren't mirrored. So you can have like a real symmetrical, for example, firework going off that's perfectly symmetrical, but then the smoke blows left to right across the screen, or things like that. Also, updates to the flocking. You can now set predator prey stuff happens when the predator and prey come in contact with each other, which is going to open up a lot of cool options. You can kill things, you can emit things. It's great. And teams now, so you can have predator and prey on separate teams, so you can emit
cool.
you can emit
that's the
predators
fun part.
from prey. So you can have like space battles between I'm so excited.
The first thing we all
There-
did was
yeah.
make space battles with those.
Yes.
100%.
And then the next thing was I was like, the second I saw Harry doing something where he was like disintegrating a form like emitter with a whole bunch of like, phaser shots, I was like, oh boy. And so if you watch my 3D motion show tutorial, I quickly was like, how can I use this to disintegrate things and make them bleed? And it's a lot of fun to play with for sure.
Oh man, I was just curious what this would look like. I really wanted
The
to try
Christmas tree?
seeing what fluid motion looked like. So back here, when you can add form to Particular, you have the option to use classic form, which is form kind of as you know it, or you can use dynamic form, and that will allow me to do things like enabling my fluid simulation. And here I'm enabling the vortex tube style, which I can change the region size to be kind of wider than this.
It's shockingly awesome.
Oh yeah, it's so easy. I'm actually using the same exact technique on a music video that we're currently in post-production on for a rapper most of our chat has probably heard of.
MC Tornado? I just made that guy up.
Jeez.
It's not him.
Why did you pluck that dumb joke right out of my
MC
brain?
Tornado?
And then, it's
Well,
like no, seriously, like that. Those words were floating to the forefront of my
Here's-
brain, and then you like Secret Service like took
Here's
that
the
bullet
difference
from
of
me. You're like, I'll
experience.
say it. That's too dumb.
yeah,
for you
the
to say,
difference
Stu.
the difference here is you didn't say it. I did. That's what
Yeah.
makes you great and me, Seth.
All right, I'm going to try to move this relative position down here so it's spinning the bottom. Maybe
I
more
thought
than the
I've had
top.
weird luck with Dow lately.
I wasn't even gonna-
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't even going to do simulations, but now I'm
Well,
just really
I
curious
wondered
'cause
with
I
the
just love
vortex
action.
stuff if it would do anything, but it's just you lack a little bit of control that I would want, because I like the bendy, windy tornado, like basically 70% of the ones in Twister. I've forgotten all of my meteorology terms that I learned, like when Twister came out. They didn't stick as well as the dinosaur terms did after Jurassic. But I thought maybe I'll start playing around with DAO. But the one thing that's messing me up is, like, do you guys know how to get better tapering in DAO? Because I don't. It just looks like a sausage. Like, it just.
Hey, that's the wheelhouse.
Yes.
I love it. I don't actually know how to do that, to be honest. So
Screw that.
Yeah, this is where we all publicly admit that we are confused by, like, the power and amazingness of
It's
DAO.
true. I mean, I managed to make meat tubes a few weeks ago that didn't look too bad.
That was awesome.
I guess I got too cocky. The meat tubes made me cocky. As they do.
So if you want to throw me up on the second
I
screen,
do.
I'm having.
It's just about to ask what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're up.
So what I was just having fun with here was setting up. This is my favorite thing. I picked so we have all these different little wireframe guns that match different presets, and it felt hilarious to give Ed a little revolver.
Can you add a real one? I want him holding a real. I'd like Hashi to divert his energy to now putting a tiny revolver in Ed's hand.
oh my god,
He's got his gun hands that he's using to hold 6-shooter.
Yeah. So this really shows you the power of.
Sorry, that took a second, Michael, for it to get into my head. Sorry.
So this shows you the glory of using a flash age random, right? Because each of these flashes now is just so radically different from one another. And I tried to I tweaked a preset to make it look a little bit more like the cotton ball, but I'm getting nice randomness. And then I'm going to go down here and switch
so good,
to.
Stu. It looks so good.
I'm going to switch to. I turned highlight roll off all the way down, so I'm getting the full HDR, and I'm going to switch to compositing this over black, and I'll just add it together with the other one. So now here are his two guns, but they're both on the same random seed. So I just need to change that on one of them, and now I've got two guns that have all the same properties, but are at different randomizations. You can see we've got sparks in this preset, which I'm loving because it actually makes me think of the cotton. So there's these little, like, highly motion blurred, like, hot sparks that come firing out of each of the blasts. They're so cool. So I don't know how interesting this is going to be, but I was thinking I would try to use these. So I'm going to composite these flashes back over Ed, but then I'm also going to use the brightness of the flashes and the glow to mat the interactive light passes, so that the flashes become like, we have an interactive light feature built into Bang, but I've got these interactive light passes for my little plastic model, so I'm going to try to use.
So the chat was asking about sparks in Bang, and I just wanted to show. Look, there's a spark right there.
Yeah,
Look,
it's really fun. You have total control over it here, so you've got a whole little section for sparks. You've got max sparks, so we can just crank it up and have lots and lots.
The hero of my detective novel.
Max sparks. There we go. Yeah. So that's too many sparks, but yeah, they're little separate particles that are rendered on these little motion blurred streaks. So they can be added to any preset, but and they have spark dispersion and spark brightness. So you got nice little control over them.
Control.
I mean, that's one of the I knew Bang was good, but then I started messing with it. I was like, this is so fast and easy to get a decent muzzle flash. Like, you could use this if you were. I thought about it because we were talking with one of the stunt coordinators on Free Guy, and I was like, you can use this on set, like when you're choreographing an action scene. You could use it on set because you got to send that to the director to say, here's the action scene. Do you like how it plays? And you can have nice. You could quickly throw in real good lens, muzzle flashes from your guns there, but it's got all of this power. You could use it in the final production as well because you've got control over all of the things. I love it so much. It gets me so excited.
Okay,
awesome.
Calm down, Michael.
I'm not allowed to give specifics, but that is literally happening on a very gun-y movie that is in production right now.
Oh, yes.
They're using it on the stunt viz and in the VFX editorial phase for previs.
It's a very gun movie, very gunny movie.
Very excited about
The
it.
gunniest of movies.
It's Gun the movie. We'll come out and say they're making a movie based on the invention of the gun.
Directed by James Gunn.
Gun, the motion picture.
So I'm gonna pre-comp this little cam left flash situation here, and then figure out what to do about that. So there he is. And then what I'm going to do is put a big ol' optical glow on him. Optical glow. We have built-in glow, but I'm going to go crazy with it because this is not to be the glow. This is to be the matte for the interactive light. So it is going to be stupid. All right. And then I have, let's see, that's camera left, interactive light pass. So I'm just going to take this and multiply this over the interactive light pass. So now this is the interactive light kind of modulated by the glow. Maybe I don't need quite so much of it here. So then I'll go back to my symbol here, and I will. So I guess this is camera left, interactive light. All right, and then, oh no, I need the flashback. This is why no one pre-comps, because it makes tutorials impossible to follow.
Don't forget to touch on interactive lights as well, because there's been a lot of questions in the chat, I think, about how the interactive light in that hero video was working.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, let's talk about the actual feature of the plugin here. So basically all you need for interactive light to work is you just need a matte for whatever your sort of foreground is, which is shockingly easy to create, because oftentimes, you know, the flash only exists for a handful of frames, or even if, like in this shot, it goes on for the entire duration of the shot. It doesn't have to be that exact, right? So what I did is I did the cheapest and simplest, like I think I did one keyframe of paint strokes for this this rotobrush here, and I got, you know, you can see the edge is a little fuzzy, but that's going to totally be fine for what we need here. You can see a little bit of the background through there. It's totally okay because nobody's looking that close. So this is just a separate layer in my comp. I can just turn it off, and then I've got Bang applied here, and we have some really nice controls for this. So so you just pick, go down here to interactive light, twirl it open. So I just picked that rotobrush matte layer, and I'm just going to make sure it has effects and masks enabled, so I get it post rotobrush, and then you just have this interactive light amount, and it's going to oops, where did it go? Interactive light amount. There you go, buddy. Yeah, so crank it up. But we have a little bit of extra control over it. So we have interactive light size, so you can control kind of the radius of it. And then we have this neat control here, restrict to matte. So if I set that to 0, basically it's going to ignore the layer and do the interactive light like all over the shot. And the thing is, we kind of noticed, like when you'd go to set up your interactive light and you wouldn't have your right layer picked, we'd actually noticed that this was actually kind of cool. Like maybe the forest is too far away from him to really be lit up with this, but like in a shot like this, you know, she's right up against that wall, like the interactive light really would be hitting the wall. I happen to have practical interactive light for this example. But for this shot, there we go. I would maybe put restrict to matte at something other than 100%, right? So restrict to matte at 100% is going to only let the interactive light up where his matte is, but I'm going to put it at like, you know, 75. So I'm just getting a little bit of interactive light, maybe 80. Getting a little interactive light on the background. And what's so nice about this is that it's entirely driven off of all the other controls. So if I change the color of the flash, like make it a little less orange, the interactive light goes with it. And if I have a high degree of, let's say, brightness random cranked up a lot so that I've got a lot of different amounts of brightness depending on the frame, or even you saw how the brightness really got affected by the age of the flash. So if I have flash age random cranked up as well, I'm going to get the correct amount of interactive light on each frame. So even if I have practical interactive light built in, I still use this because it's just so easy, and it just adds just a little bit. You know, what you really don't want this to do is just look like a pop of a thing that doesn't have any interaction or any sort of integration with the rest of the shot. And so all of these things that we added are just designed to give it a little bit more real-life interactivity.
That is so lovely. And yeah, honestly, Bang is so fast to add to something, and both lightsabers and muzzle flashes, for some reason, I hate having to spend any time doing.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know, like a laser blast. I don't know what it is about them. I mean, they're very simple in essence.
Yeah,
but
like
they're
to
such a
just
pain in
add
the ass
more.
to waste time on.
So here I've actually got keyframes set up for the position of the gun, right? So if I advance to the next interactive light frame, you can just see this is the process to do this frame, right? I'm going to put the nose of the gun here. I'm going to grab the back until the sight lines up here, and then I'm going to click this add keyframe button, and then I'm going to move on to the next interactive light frame. So here it is, move, add keyframe, next. So I don't know, man. If we could have made it any easier than this, I am not aware of how we could have possibly made it any easier or faster than this.
No, really, that's so great.
This is my job.
Shooting people.
How's the tornado coming?
Tornado is moving. I get so mesmerized by the lovely VFX chat. So yeah, let me show you what I got here. So let's see, where did you go? None. Wait, did I turn off the effect or something? So I just really quickly have attached my little array of particles to a little null, so it's animating and chasing behind him like a sentient little tornado, which is very silly right now. And I think the next couple of things that I want to do, I've put an expression on the twist property of this this particular array. I might turn up the number of particles, or maybe at least the size of the particles here, because that's a really cool effect. I'm going to maybe make them gray or something like that. Let's see, where'd my picker go? There we go. Yeah, I was going to make this a real cartoony tornado, I think. First of all, one of the things going on here that I really like is that this was a very broad daylight kind of shot. So all I'm doing is taking this really foggy horizon picture and putting it on a 3D card way back here and turning its opacity not all the way up. And it kind of makes for that weird tornado weather thing, like where you could have maybe sun here, but there's this sweeping in storm of stuff in the background. So here's the tornado. Doesn't ignore the lighting, but let's see. Maybe I could add in a light here.
That's really good visual effects advice, Hashi.
Ignore the lighting. Ignore the animation. Put all your effort into the sound effects.
Which, if you're a real actor, will only be made with your mouth and hands.
Yes. It's not real Foley if it comes from a library.
I'm loving the cartoony tornado, by the way.
It looks like...
Well,
yeah.
If no one will understand the reference to MathNet, right? like no one will know what
Actually,
that is.
I don't know the reference. No, I was gonna say
There's-
your Kung Fu Panda fire is like the perfect example of like really good cartoony pyro or cartoony natural
yeah.
stuff.
It was fun to be a visual effects person working at an animation studio because you brought so many, like there were so many visual effects people who ended up over there, and it's just because there are so many things that you don't want to have to animate, but having visual effects knowledge really augments the skill set and abilities of everybody there to not work too hard
Yeah.
on something that could be an easier problem. Let me see. Let me affect the nominal distance a little bit. I don't know where I've placed this light in the space here. Let's see. What have I created? What have I done? What are we all doing? I'm gonna move my light all the way back. This is a very big scene, and I camera tracked it before knowing how to normalize scenes well. Wait, let me see. So if I turn up this light, is it even? It's not even affecting that stuff, is it? Oh, there we go. Turn up the cone angle. All right, now we're talking. All right, so I'm just going to try to place a light somewhere that it creates a bit of a. This looks so bad, you guys, but it's exciting. It's exciting.
I was trying to do something with flocking to make a tornado with like flocking and target attraction, and so I've got this thing where I can I can snake this tornado around and it'll always end up going down to that center point at the bottom, which I could in effect keyframe in After Effects as well. The trick is to make that motion not appear so fast. That would actually well, there's promise here, but there's a bunch of stuff that would have to be fixed before it looked good. Just the story.
I like it.
Story of my life.
You know what I should be creating is a Tasmanian devil.
Yep, around him
is really where
either chasing him or have him come out of one. Come out of the
let's
tornado.
see. I'm gonna have it chasing him. So what if I did that? All I'd have to do is scale down my particular system. See, I just transition it to cartoons when I know I'm about to fail.
Yep, that's how you do it.
And then I can say, oh, it's just my, it's my veteran animation knowledge, just trying to come and be useful to everybody. Wow, I scaled that up like crazy. All right, what have we done? Okay, the smaller particles, let's make them smaller. Maybe let's not have so many. Yeah, we're going to do a Tasmanian devil chase. This is perfect. It's sort of the same physics. And I know Stu is a huge fan of the Tasmanian devil lore. So it would make sense to have him observe this silently.
You still making your bangy things happen, Stu?
Yeah, I got I got some progress over here.
All right, let's see. You're live.
So I've got a little rig here now where, so for each camera right and camera left flash, just a reminder, like there's our beauty pass, and then I've got the flashes busted out in their own pre-comps, and then that for each one goes into an interactive light pass where I'm taking this crazy glow and multiplying it over. And so basically I'm just sort of matting and colorizing my interactive light passes that I photographed with the little with a cotton ball wadded on top of a LED flashlight, basically. And then so then I'm comping the flashes back over. Then I'm also adding back in the interactive light that is multiplied with the flashes. So I'm in pre-comps galore here, but the result is that
galore. This is a funny.
So you get this nice sense of like when the flash on that side is bright, you get the cool. You get that side lit up by it, and you see the shadows shifting around on his feet and that kind of stuff. So it's getting there. I'm figuring it out. I really want to make his little hands move, like chug, chug, chug. But in a way, it's kind of fun because it's like channeling as if I had like motion control and had multiple passes to play with in an optical composite or whatever.
Back here, I am using one of your favorite expressions, which is the 2-comp expression.
That's my boy right there.
And I'm linking it to on my particular layer. I'm adding some VFX shadow because there would be a really distinct shadow in this. But it's a 3D scene, so it's a little bit weird to add a fake 2D shadow. So if anyone doesn't remember what VFX Shadow does, it's basically this. You have this really nice visual interface. Oops, let me scrunch my screen a little bit more. Where you establish what the horizon line is, and then you establish the slant of the shadows, and you can kind of base that on, other reference from the shot. And on top of that all, you can go down to displacement, and I can say, look at the original footage and use that as a bit of a displacement on the shadow level itself. And I could smooth that out. I could feather that out. Wonderful things like that. I can also have the shadow fade. But I'm using the 2-comp expression because I attached 2 little nulls. They're a little bit hard to see. But out here to the sides of this null controlling the tornado. And I did that so I can then, on my shadow effect, basically place these simple 2-comp effects. So it'll always pin the left and right side of my ground plane to these 2 nulls as I go through here. And I'll manually adjust maybe where this is. I guess this could technically be somewhere in Z. So kind of converting a 2D plugin into a 3D result, which is kind of cool. So that should be down here. That should be right there. Oops, make this bigger. Right, and let me make the shadow a little bit more soft. And have it fade a teeny bit. All these little things just really help. This tornado looks like garbage, but that's usually my MO for the beginning half of these, and then they look like polished garbage at the end. So let me see if this Tasmanian Devil-y. It's so stupid. It's also very slow and not as chaotic as I would want a Tasmanian Devil to be.
Well, you've got 10 minutes to get it as chaotic as you would like, and then to super comp it.
All right, so let's see. So I'm going to switch my view to a top view here. I could probably use like a wiggle expression on this too, which might be truly more chaotic. But I'm just going to take these points and make some kind of ridiculous curves to this path. And the reason I'm doing this in the top view is to try to keep my tornado right on the ground plane. This might give it some more back and forth wackiness. Seth, I really should have let you do this. I didn't have as good an idea as I thought.
That's the story of my life. I mean, I've got the same situation going on over here.
Amazing. What are you working on over there, Seth?
I briefly explored. Right now, particular is doing something weird to me. Let me see if I can just apply this and get out and come back in. But I've got an emitter that is sending particles down toward a target position, and then upon their death, I have an emitter with this like dust sequence particle coming out. And for a hot second, it actually looked kind of cool. And I thought, oh, I want to add some swirl to that. And so I added some swirl vortex thing to it, and then I broke it. And now I'm trying to get it back to what it was. And again, this is from user error. I still don't fully understand how to wield the fluid dynamics to get what I want. It's a little
well. It is.
It's a little bit like throwing.
I mean, there is simulation. So just like anything,
there's no control.
You have to. There is no control. You set it up as best as you can, and let the simulation take the wheel.
Have you decided to normalize your scene, Hashi, or are you just continuing to work in giant space?
I did actually normalize my scene. So in theory, this is all working better now, scale-wise.
I will say the normalized script, now that I'm starting to do more VFX stuff lately and not all MoGraph all the time, that normalized button has found its way into my interface.
It really, it's so tremendously helpful. And I believe we've talked about it plenty on the show, but if you don't know, the normalized track script is a free script available from Workbench TV, and it makes it so you can turn your 3D scenes into something that After Effects is very comfortable with, because everything is sort of centered around the comp's center point instead of around mixed and matched center points, which is what you can get with the camera tracker just by itself. All right, I'm just trying to sidelight this tornado a little bit.
I have one fully Terry Gilliam'd arm of Ed 209 now.
Ooh, here we come.
Wait, let's see.
Look at that.
Excellent.
So I made this is the dumbest thing. I made a little 3D null and kind of tried to line it up with the action of the arm, and then apparently just cut out his stupid little.
That is the perfect way to do that.
And then I just separated the dimensions, which is the best, and then just so now this arm slides back and forth on that 3D axis. It's so stupid. And then I just put a wiggle on it, and now I feel just ever so slightly better about my little Ed 209 still life. So now I'm going to do the other arm.
Oh, you're so cute.
That's the update from Dumbtown over here.
For years, I have wanted to By the way, thank you for letting us visit Dumbtown. It's a wonderful. We had a wonderful stay. I have for years wanted to figure out how. I've just wanted to come up with a reason to make a short about toys, just so I could do exactly what you're doing, which is. Like, I've done several tutorials where like they involve just like dinosaur toys and puppeting them and stuff, but like I want to make like an entire action extravaganza out of toys that's not 3D animated, that's just like kablammed all up with realistic like action VFX, like muzzle flashes and explosions and pyro and fire, but everything else is like clearly stop motion or action figure-y and dumb.
Dude, you know how to get in touch with me. Apparently, I'm so known for putting stupid toys in front of the camera for the sake of demoing a VFX thing that when I was demoing for Adobe at IBC, the only thing they told me in advance was no robots.
What?
Well, that's the dumbest rule I've ever heard in my life.
And wow. I just thought,
that's a bad rule.
You guys hired the wrong guy.
So you did nothing but robots, right?
Yeah, I did nothing but robots.
Good. Which is also the name of your next book.
I did spaceships, obviously. Obviously, I did spaceships.
I would like for Nothing But Robots to be the name of your autobiography, if you can swing that. Nothing but robes.
Nothing but robots.
Hashi, you're pals with Joe from Workbench, right?
Yes, we can get him on the show.
I was gonna say the chat is requesting his appearance.
All right. Let it be known.
Stu and Andrew Kramer are like the top of our requirements
Yes,
list
they are.
as far as the chat's demands go. But we're Joe
Get him on
Workbench is on the list as well.
Mm-hmm. You gotta track down the Andrew Kramer and find his lair.
He's the only one who will out pre-comp me. and or possibly use the mini flowchart view more than me.
Oh, that's true. I just realized
the mini
this
flowchart.
actually is a promising and could make a wide shot, but I just realized that everything's going the wrong way. Like, and I actually would have more control if I can. Okay. Let me see if I can externalize the tornado that's happening in my head. I need to. Right now,
You have 3 minutes.
So right now, I have them emitting from the top and flocking toward a target at the bottom, and then when they die, the debris particles are coming up. What I need is for them to emit from the ground, flock toward the target at the top. And so it wouldn't be emit at parrot end of life. It would just be another emitter that's in the same location as the other one. So that is gonna... Let's see if I can do this in 3 minutes. Okay. So first I make... I'm going to see if I can do it.
I love it. I am just doing some last-ditch efforts on trying to make my clouds look a little bit more volumetric, and I'm just going to try to let this RAM preview play. I always choose like a 10-second scene, which is a very silly thing to do. I need like the quick, like 1.5 second shot. I also have my my twister moving backwards. The top is moving faster than the bottom. Look at him.
That is really funny.
All right, so this is very, very silly, but let's go with this. I'm so disappointed in myself. I'm so embarrassed to do. I should have instead parented every smoke particle to a null and arranged them by a mathematical formula.
That was the coolest sentence you've ever said.
It tracked too, I'm positive. Anyway. All right, I'm gonna call it on my end. I'm not gonna make it. I can tell I'm not going to make this any better. So no more value to the audience to watch me mess around with it more.
I mean, this was the longest intro chat we've
Yeah, it
ever
is.
had on an episode before we actually started.
Well,
diving
yeah.
into the effects.
Now that said,
Well, yeah,
my tornado isn't terrible. It just takes a little bit to render here in the visualizer, but I could even make it better.
Ooh. That is looking great.
You've got 30 seconds before our 2 hour
Hey, Michael,
mark.
is it called VFX and Chill with Michael and Hashi and Seth? Is it called VFX?
Is it called VFX and Finish on
Oh my
Time?
God, Stu, we're stealing thoughts from each other.
It's called VFX and Stress About a Deadline.
Yeah, VFX and turn it in
Man.
on time? I don't think so.
Yes. This was a fail on my end. I let you all down.
I was gonna say I feel really disappointed in your performance on this episode, Hashi.
I was so overconfident that this would just work immediately, and I spent so much time looking for rotomats.
Hashi, no one here cares. They all love you.
All right. Well, Ed 2D.
Thank you all.
9 he's
Ed
he's
2D9.
scraping just under the.
Oh, let's switch over to him.
let's cut to Ed.
Good Lord.
Oh yeah. See, that's That's what y'all came here for.
These are Terry Gilliamed arms, camera shake to hide the multitude of sins, fancier interactive light than is strictly necessary, and
that is gorgeous.
Using modern technology to try to simulate cotton balls. So this ticked a lot of boxes for me. I don't know about you guys.
We did it.
His stupid little arms.
Wow. So yeah,
Right,
we
that's
obviously
it.
need
That's
some
what I
kind
came
of
to do.
stop-mo episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really amazing to have Stu here. Just the number of classic VFX shots throughout our lives that you have touched upon is really wonderful. So make sure that you find and follow Stu in person wherever he goes.
There's a bunch of you outside my door right there.
I'll post his address in the chat right now.
Seems very appropriate.
Absolutely. But yeah, if you ever have a nerdy visual effects history question, directed toward Stu and just try to poke him until he goes off. It
doesn't take much to get me going.
Can I show you guys my
this.
tornado real quick? It says is it
I want to see it.
for the
Yeah.
first time in the world.
Yes.
It's not bad and it's actually kind of promising. Like I feel like I don't know if you guys can see the particles that are the debris that's coming at the bottom, but basically it's emitting from wherever I put it and flying up toward the one point in the cloud, which can be keyframed.
Ooh, nice.
Looks good.
And so I could animate the motion if I bring it in here pretty decently. Anyway, it's
I mean, between the two of you, it's like Hashi spent more time kind of on the look and the lighting and the volumetricness, and you've got the really convincing motion. It's really nice.
if the two of us could find time to work together and create something, but then it would be called VFX and Chill with Hashi, and no one wants that.
Shush.
No one wants that. Good God, Stu! Thanks for hanging out with us, man.
I'm so glad we got to see that transition one more time. Thank you guys for having me.
I have a feeling you'll be back a whole lot more until it's VFX and Chill with Stu, Hashi, and Seth. That's the goal.
Next time I'll be good at it.
That's what we say every time. You need to join me and Hashi's chat afterward where we apologize to each other for being bad co-hosts and realize
and to Michael for just abusing the only person
Yeah.
like, supporting everything.
Responsible adult in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Oh man.
That was
Hashi, you want to
fun.
talk?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, man, of course. Hashi, you can talk last since I talked first.
Oh, sure. Well, it was really wonderful to have a VFX legend, Stu, with us today. And thank you, Michael, so much for all of your amazing backup info. There is some really cool new features. Maxon has bombarded the interwebs with new things that have come out, both in the Cinema 4D front and the After Effects classic Red Giant stuff, features that we've wanted for a really long time, including Bang, which you should open up and play with. It's so fun.
Yeah.
See what it looks like. Those are some of my messages. Get your VFX and Chill mug so you can join us every Friday at 10 for this exciting adventure. And
That's all. The end.